I read your latest email and I'm trying to kind of decipher what that means. Hopefully this is not kind of counteracting what you're trying to kind of relay in terms of the message and the direction. But this was just to test it out. That maybe, who knows, it might be another angle. And it was just basically what I was mentioning yesterday in the email that I would do in terms of creating pages with their own templates for gallery, history, places, points of interest. Um, so I kind of want to just review it real quick with you. Here I am basically on the new updated one. There's another folder now, directory called Mark2, and it has the same login credentials. I'm working on the FTP because I've been getting a fatal error from my cPanel every time I try to initiate FTP. So I'll work on that and get you FTP access. But essentially what's happening is, you go to the neighborhood, you're able to see places, gallery, history, points of interest. You click places and it has the places and it keeps the neighborhood. You have a gallery and it's pulling content from that. I still have to fix this up, but it's pulling content at least from the same custom post type. Same with here, it's pulling the WYSIWYG content and points of interest, the same thing. And all it was, and I haven't resolved the matter by any means, but I'm just saying all that I did was, for places, just go into history, for example, just create a histories page and just gave it a neighborhood history template and create a neighborhood gallery, neighborhood points of interest, and a places page. So I've just given those templates, right? So if we go in here actually and just look at the code for a second, sorry, it's a little disorganized. Um, Here we have the history PHP file. And as you can see, it's the neighborhood history template. And what I'm doing here, basically this is just a custom, well, it's a new query, just called the query. I'm sure you're familiar with these, with an array, and this is how I call that custom post type. So even though I'm calling neighborhood, I'm definitely calling the individual neighborhood, and within neighborhood, of course, we have all the custom fields, which include history with this slug here, and points of interest with that slug, and gallery with that slug, etc. So, and as you already know, it's inside of the neighborhoods page. When you go within any individual neighborhood, we have all those custom fields. So I'm just calling that new content now. Okay, so that's nothing new. But what I did was in each template now, I just put post per page one, but I think there might be something in here. Maybe there's another array value that can be put that's basically like, post per page. I don't know, because I'm still like trying to figure out how we could do maybe like, I don't know, maybe like another one that's like, I doubt this even exists, but I'm just saying like posts and like, they do like the arrow thing here and they're like post by like ID. Like I don't even know if this would work, but I'm just basically, what I'm trying to get at is I think that if we can do that, we might be able to get a different solution, because when I just leave post per page blank, what it essentially does is it shows me every single neighborhood in one, because it's running through all the neighborhoods. So by putting, here, let me just show you this on the local. I just think it would be easier that way. Um, so yeah, here we are, and then we go to neighborhoods, we go to Adams Morgan. So if I were to here, for example, go to gallery or history even, and just go to the history file, and then just like completely, just hide this for a second and then save it. Like what it would do is obviously repeat every single neighborhood, right? Because it's calling every single one. So by calling one, it's just going to say call only one, right? But at the same time, there has to be maybe a little more definition as to call one, but call them by ID or something. Because now what's happening, of course, is if I go to a different neighborhood, everything's great, but once I click places, it's just going to pull up Morgan's place. Gallery, it's going to pull up Adams Morgan's gallery. History is the same thing. Points of interest, the same thing. So I feel like the key really is in one of these array values. I mean, I know we could write a whole bunch of complicated functions, but I really think if somehow you could maybe we could just shift the focus on just writing a query statement in here that would just call by ID. Because even these, right? Even these places and neighborhoods, I mean, they all have their ID. This is post 314. Even all the places have their own post numbers. So there has to be a way to be able to call them by posts. And I guess you still using your taxonomies that you have here, reference it. I don't know if this kind of abstracts the fact or the direction that we're trying to kind of work on this. But this at least does maintain the same neighborhood name and background color. It's just calling the first one in the list essentially. It's just calling Adams Morgan in this case in terms of what neighborhood to reference every time you go to the place's gallery history. And naturally in every place, I'm still calling the post type neighborhood. So that's the key for me to be able to trigger this, the field for the background color. And then here I'm just echoing, getting the title by ID on the neighborhood name itself. And the rest is just using the neighborhood menu, which is now just linking to pages that have their templates that are obviously calling these templates that have their own arrays and functions within them. Well, actually they don't have any functions, but they have these arrays of where they're getting their content from. But I feel like the key is really in one of these array values and just saying, okay, well, let's drill down further. Yes, grab one, so don't grab all of them, but also grab the post by ID. So I don't know, I'm going to research it a little bit and see what I can come up with, but at least it's somewhat functioning to actually be pulling the right content. That's a start, I suppose. Another thing is, so here we are in places. Unfortunately, I tried to make places page a child of neighborhoods. Page now, we're not talking about custom post types, we're just talking about page. And that seems to kind of break the order. If you look up here, we're neighborhoods, and I select Adams Morgan, and so far we're good. Essentially, if I were to select places, it should keep kind of tacking on to this, but it just kind of like resets and goes to places. And I get why. It's because places is its own page. It's not a child of anything. So let's say if I were to go to places here and make this a child of neighborhoods, and then just refresh everything. This page wouldn't show up, obviously. So let me just go back and see here we're still at neighborhood, Adams Morgan, and places. For some reason, it won't kind of acknowledge, and I'm guessing the reason why it won't is because neighborhood is calling a post from custom post types, and then suddenly it's calling another it's calling a page suddenly. So suddenly the custom post type is acting as the parent of a page that we're calling, which is places, to kind of list the places. So the only way I could kind of get around that was to just keep them at the same level or make them siblings. But then again, when I call them, it's only going to call the content of one custom post type, and that's the very first one, which is Adams Morgan. So every single neighborhood sub-navigation will just call Adams Morgan. So gallery works on its own, of course, because it's the sibling of neighborhood. So I think it could be a possibility. Just leave this back as no parent so that it works. And I think the key would be at this point to keep all these links just siblings of these. They're just another navigation that's introduced. And then when you go to places, obviously it doesn't continue to reference the neighborhoods and then Adams Morgan, all that. But somehow through the taxonomy, once we are at the places level on that place PHP, we come up with the array values necessary to further specify which neighborhood to pull up. And then that's one problem, so that every neighborhood will have its own set of pages pulling its content. And then the second one is once we're at the place level, it actually goes to the place, because now what's happening is that this is a new place I just created called the Red Building, but Oxford House works because it goes from place to Oxford House. But the Red Building goes from Adams Morgan to the Red Building, which I think is interesting because it's keeping the relationship, but yet it's not pulling the page. So if I go here into places, custom post type, and I go to Oxford House, what's interesting here is, this could be why. First of all, I'm not 100% sure. I know I just put DuPont Circle here. This doesn't seem to be doing anything. Yours is down here, and it's always got Adams Morgan selected, but there's no option for like no parent or for me to uncheck it. So if I were to uncheck that, nothing really happens because it's still selected. So I don't know if that might hold some little tidbit of information that could somehow affect the taxonomy, because it seems like it's always, you have to always have a place selected. So let's say if I did select Brooklyn and I updated, um, which I think makes sense, by the way. Like, it should probably only have one neighborhood associated to it anyways. But yeah, it's still pulling all of them up. It doesn't really make a difference. Um, and then it just goes from place to Oxford House. So it doesn't distinguish um, a specific neighborhood. So see, yeah, it just goes back to Adams Morgan. So kind of there. Um, I'm sorry, Brooklyn, but still, I'm kind of there. Just all of course, all the places are being called again because it's just kind of calling them all together. So that's another kind of level of abstraction, is just that the place custom post type, it's not really recognizing, or maybe it is recognizing the taxonomies, but the actual um, query here that I have currently here is just not sufficient enough to say, okay, we'll filter out the ones that are not relevant to the ID being called on. So I don't know. I don't know if this is further complicated. I'm just going to stop the screencast here because I'm just going to keep rambling. So, um, but yeah, that's kind of what I approached it. Now you can visit the site at Mark2, and it's the same Mberta Arboreal 8 login. I'll work on getting you FTP. So if you want to kind of play with this version or see what kind of was done here, it'll be different from the other one we have hosted on Mark. All right, thank you.